All right, so the illnesses that we see happening in middle childhood, lots of colds and coughs, right? There's a really high rate the first 2 years of school, so kindergarten, first grade. We're going to see this more if the child was at home until then. If a child was in preschool, they're going to get more of their illnesses at that age. If you've been living at home your whole time, staying home with mom, and then you start kindergarten and all of a sudden you're being exposed to all these new kids and all these new germs, you're going to be more like, you're not going to have an immune system that's quite ready to be fighting all that stuff off. We're going to see more of those chronic conditions popping up. Asthma, a lot of time is diagnosed between 6 and 12. Kids with like juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, right? Things like that. Um, which is a pretty severe chronic illness that kids can be dealing with. We might see some uh, like lupus, things that may not have known what it was yet until we get a little bit older. But for the most part, what we're going to see at this age is the average cold, cough, flu symptomology. We're not going to see too much of the more hardcore illnesses quite yet. For our motor development, gross motor skills, they're going to become more flexible, they're going to have better balance, better agility, and they're going to put a lot more force behind stuff. All right, if a 2-year-old comes up and punches you as hard as they can, it's not going to hurt that bad. If a 12-year-old comes up and punches you as hard as they can, like they could break something. And that has to do a lot with, they're having bigger muscles, but also they can put more force behind what they do, right? The 4-year-olds playing soccer, can barely kick the ball at all. The 7-year-olds playing soccer can really kick that thing, and they can, balance better. They can, go around a track and go through, hoops and jump over things and all of that. They're getting better and better and better at all of that stuff. Fine motor skills, writing should be improving every single year, right? Because we should be working on it in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. And their drawing skills should also start to improve. We do see that girls are going to be better at fine motor skills and boys tend to be better at gross motor skills. Part of that is a true sex difference, part of that's just society, right? Boys tend to be put into sports more. Boys tend to be, put into things that test their gross motor skills more. Girls are more likely to be given art sets, things like that, which are going to go towards, helping them be better at their fine motor type skills, drawing, printing. You know, I don't ever know a boy who had a calligraphy set, but I know almost all of my girlfriends when I was growing up had one. Like that served us well. Social environment also plays into this, right? So what are like the parental expectations? Do the parents expect the child to be playing sports, to be doing well at sports? Are they then, getting them a basketball hoop so that they're practicing all the time? Are they going out in the backyard and kicking that soccer ball around? That's going to contribute to how well they play things, how much coordination they have, right? A lot of it's practice and what the parents expect out of them. Part of it's also kind of those self-perceptions of, am I good at sports? Is this something that is me? Is this part of my kind of identity? And they're going to start having more of a complex identity at this age. So if they view themselves as kind of a sports person, they're going to kind of try harder at it. If they view themselves as not being much of a sports person, they may not try as hard to, be good at sports. Uh, what are the coaches saying to them, right? Is the coach, being a good, person who's trying to like build up all the kids, or is he kind of a not so great coach, crazy coach? I've seen a lot of those around here in Texas. And what is the media telling them? And again, this plays into like girls not seeing as many media messages as boys see. Sorry, I have my my volume turned up on my computer because I'm going to show you a video here in a second. So you might hear my email buzzing. Uh, Boys see constantly, look, here's, this basketball player, this football player, this baseball player, this MMA guy, and girls don't see as much of that. So boys may feel more pressure in a way to be more sports centered, and girls may feel like they're, even if they want to be sports centered, that it isn't something that they really are supposed to go towards. All right, so this is a drawing from a 10-year-old who has like some mad drawing skills. I couldn't draw this well. But look at the detail, right, in this drawing. They know they need to kind of fill up all of the empty space. They, put a lot more thought into, depth and things like that from a 10-year-old. Now we do see that at this age we're going to be able to really separate the people with those actually have some artistic talent from those who don't so much. Right? So like I couldn't draw this well than this 10-year-old. My drawing skills pretty much are at the level of like, I don't know, a third or fourth grader. But you can tell by 10, 11, 12, there's some kids who can draw amazingly well. And there are kids like me who, can't. Like show me exactly step by step what to do and I can copy you. But other than that, like, meh. Uh, so we are starting to see kind of those kids with that right brain, kind of activation of those artistic skills are really going to start to shine now. So some kids, like me, are going to just kind of level out right here with artistic skill, and some kids who are more right brained, artistically, inclined are really going to start to take off at this age. All right, so for Piaget, we are in the concrete operational stage now. So this is stage 3 for Piaget. Concrete operations, we've moved out of those, pre-operational stage where, everything was kind of loopy for those silly little 2 to 6 year olds. But now we're in concrete operations. So what this means is that I understand concrete, kind of very literal understanding of the world. But as long as everything is kind of makes sense and is logical, then they're going to be able to understand it. So they get conservation now, right? They decentrate, which means they don't just concentrate on one part of a problem. They can concentrate on multiple parts. They have reversibility, right? They can go forward and backward in their mind, which is important for doing math, right? I need to be able to add and take away. I need to understand that if I multiply it, I can then divide it, right? I can go backwards and forwards. They get better at classifying things in their brain into different schemas, right? Oh, this is a fish, and a fish is an animal. It's an animal that lives in the sea, and it's this. I can classify schemas inside of schemas. Their spatial reasoning is going to get better. They're going to be able to understand directions better, and especially as far as like if you give them a map and say you're here, find your way here, they're going to be better at being able to do that. Just following directions in general, they're going to be better at doing, right? They can read a recipe and follow it pretty well. Though my daughter didn't quite realize that you had to, follow the directions all the way through when she was making a cake the other day. And so she looked at the ingredients and she just put them all in a bowl together and mixed them all up. And I said, oh, honey, no, you got to follow the directions of when you put the things in and then you do it. And let me just tell you something. If that's how you make a cake, it does not turn out well. And things we learn while in quarantine. So our limitations to concrete thought. Like I said, our operations work best with concrete logical information, and they have a lot of problems with abstract ideas. So things that aren't kind of logical kind of go over their head. So at this age, they're going to have problems understanding analogies. They're going to have problems understanding sarcasm, right? Like sarcasm is tricky, right? To be sarcastic and to understand sarcasm, you have to understand that someone is saying something, but what they're saying isn't what they mean, and they're actually meaning the opposite of what they're saying. And that takes a higher level of cognitive ability that, our 6, 7, 8-year-olds don't have so much. They sometimes think that they are, but they don't really understand it a whole lot. There's just a lot that still goes over their head, right? And they'll get there eventually. It may be at 11, it may be at 10, it may be at 13, depends on the kid. So Piaget put this time period at like 7 to 11 or 12. It just depends. It depends on when the kid's able to make that jump away from just understanding concrete and being able to understand more abstract types ways of thinking about things. They're going to master those steps gradually, right? They're slowly going to start to understand that there's not always a logical explanation for things. That sometimes something can have more than one answer. Sometimes both people can be right, but in different ways, right? If you tell a kid at this age, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, right? They're gonna just take that extremely literally. That, yeah, if you lived in a glass house, why would you throw a rock? Like, it would break the house, duh. They don't understand there's a deeper meaning to that. Uh, yeah, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. That's always a funny one, right? They won't understand that at all. They're like, but what? Why is there? What's going on here? Like, they don't understand that. It's better to have it now than to hope that you have something better later. They can't wrap their mind around that. Slowly, they're going to start to get this, though. So the way that Piaget tested this kind of was in different ways, and mostly it was to give an abstract scenario. So we're going to watch this video, and we're going to see a kid who's about 7. And what they do is they give them kind of these different rules and scenarios, and they have to say what happens. So you'll see how the 7-year-old reacts to an abstract scenario versus an about 11 to 12-year-old and how she reacts to the scenario.
It says, if you hit a glass with a hammer, the glass will break.
I knew that.
And then this one says, Dawn hit a glass with a hammer.
I knew that too.
So what happened to the glass?
It broke.
It broke. Why did it break?
Because the hammer's hard.
If you hit a glass with a feather, the glass will break.
No, it won't.
And this is the second rule. Dawn hit a glass with a feather. What happened to the glass?
Nothing.
Nothing happened? Why didn't anything happen?
Because the feather was soft.
First one says, if you hit a glass with a feather, the glass will break.
Okay.
And the second one, Dawn hit a glass with a feather. What happened to the glass?
It broke.
And why did it break?
Because the rule says if you hit a glass with a feather, it'll break. So if you hit a glass with a feather, it broke.
All right, sorry you could hear my children in the background for part of that. Hashtag teaching during quarantine. And if you see, so we had our younger kid who was about 7, right? And when we gave him the scenario that was a concrete logical scenario, glass and hammer, he's like, fine. Yeah, I hit a glass with a hammer. Of course it would break. That makes logical, concrete sense. But when they changed it and they gave him a hypothetical situation, in this hypothetical place, when you hit a glass with a hammer, you hit a glass with a feather, it'll break. Right? So in this hypothetical land, when Dawn hits a glass with a feather, what happens? The kid's like, nothing's going to happen. It's a feather. It can't break, right? His brain can't wrap around the fact that this is, abstract, hypothetical. No, it's not reality, but in this pretend place, this is what happens. Like, his brain just can't quite go there yet. This older girl, right, who looks to be about 12, 13 years old, you can see she's like, she's a little bit like, oh, this is stupid, but she can go there, right? She's like, okay, it's hypothetical, it's not real, but if the rule in this place is that when you hit a glass with a feather, it'll break, then if, Dawn hits a glass with a feather, it will break, right? She can go there. Her brain's able to do that. Her prefrontal cortex has, executive functioning has made that leap to be able to say, I understand things even if they aren't logical, even if they aren't concrete.